sorry about that. We've now come ahead to where I thought the hyenas were moving, and so far I can't see anything here. There is a little water hole, but I think there's a strong possibility there's something happening in those thickets there. It's always good to switch off and listen. Your ears often find animals before your eyes. But nothing just yet. So I think our plan is we're going to keep on our little route through here, and then maybe when it's a bit lighter, I might come back and have a little walk on foot through there, see if we can find anything there. So I haven't found any tracks here yet, so I am going to head towards Mvubu Road, and that's where the lionesses were sleeping yesterday, and see if maybe their tracks have come further to the south. It is overcast, quite windy today. Now, of course, if you're a big cat, this is great hunting weather, and it's been like this for a few hours, so there's always a good chance that maybe a lion or a leopard managed to secure itself a meal. Ryan, you see any tracks on that favoured path over there? Nothing cat-like. Seems that everything's happening around the centre of Djuma at the moment, around the lodges. There was Sindile, Karula, and the two Nkahuma lionesses, all within a very close proximity to each other. And we've got these two hyenas with their tails up moving around here. Now, they must have heard something we didn't. Now, while we brave this cold weather in search of the big cats, let's go see how James is in his nice, warm, toasty tent.
Describing this as a toasty, warm tent, everybody, is a gross exaggeration. I've got a jersey on. There's a wind blowing through. We've only got one side closed. It is quite toasty in front of this light, though. Very nice. Right, my name is James Hendry, if you're wondering. David is on camera today. Eugene is knocking about outside trying to fix various technical things. We're setting ourselves up, of course, for TV. That's why I was underneath the desk there. I have various things to try and sort out. But while we have you there, now, of course, every time I come into my little museum here, it has been moved around by people with aesthetically more experienced eyes. I put everything where I could find them, but apparently this was unacceptable, and so now I can't find anything in my tent. But what I can find is this amazing hyena skull, and there are two things about the skull that are interesting. First of all, the fact that the actual jaw there does not belong to... Now, they've taken the jaw... Here it is. Good grief, it's irritating. Okay, so, here we are. This particular jaw belongs to this particular hyena, and what Brent's talking about when he says that they're going to be scavenging along, of course, is he's absolutely right. They will be scavenging, and their teeth are specially adapted for scavenging and getting the most of nutrients from food that has perhaps already been devoured by other larger predators or faster predators. And what I want you to look at there is the obvious carnassial shear. Now I'm going to turn the teeth like this. These teeth are called carnassials, the molars. There we can see them. And you can see how this very aged hyena has worn away its teeth. And you can see how it would be extremely effective for cutting meat from skin or bone, or chopping something like a ligament in half. And also, just have a look here, Dave, at these two front canines and see how the top one has been occluded, horribly occluded, or not horribly, but certainly this was not a young hyena when it succumbed to whatever killed it, but you can see how the top canine has been rubbed and shaped by the bottom one, the constant chewing and chewing. You can also see the different parts of the teeth there. You can see the enamel, that's the sort of plain white bit there, and underneath starting to be exposed the dentine of this hyena. So that is the teeth. Those are the teeth of the spotted hyena. And of course this spotted hyena, being the only animal that is able to crush a bone like that. Very few other animals could do that unless they have a tool, and of course that's one of the things that we as human beings are very clever at doing. That's using tools. Now, operating with a tool out in the bush at the moment. A tool is a very small sort of stick. He's now doing a bit of a pole dance next to a stump. Let's go and find out what Stef Winterboer's plans are for the morning on foot.
Good morning. Good morning to this wonderful, wonderful cloudy, basically sunrise bushwalk safari. We're on safari with myself, Stef Winterboer, and Jean Reyes on camera with us today. Now our plan for today is to just walk around in an area close to Cheetah cutline. And what we come here for is nothing really. I haven't got a faintest idea what we're going to find here today. There's no clue giving me any idea as to elephant or lion or leopard in the area. But with a windy day like today, things have been moving during the night. I mean, I'm sure you've been enjoying those hyena with Brent there. But to start off with, I just want to show you something. I very rarely bypass a big tree. And this is one of the biggest of this particular species that I've seen on the reserve to date. This is a zebrawood, a mature zebrawood. And one of the hardest trees that we found out here. In actual fact, it's probably the second hardest tree we have here. And I'm going to give you a little demonstration as to how hard this thing is. Now, most trees you can move by just pushing them a little bit. Have a look at how hard this guy is. There's just absolutely no movement in that tree whatsoever. Isn't that incredible? To be honest with you, there isn't even... we're all very funny today. I think we're gearing up for this afternoon's big show and for the weekend. Now, what I enjoy about this is the fact that its wood is pitch black. It's got the heartwood here. This is its heartwood. And you can see how hard it is even to get little shavings off of here. Now, traditionally, these pieces of stump were used for implement handles because they're very, very termite resistant. But this little shaving of wood, if you had to drop it into a glass of water, it's so dense it wouldn't even float. Can you believe that, hey? And you can see how shiny that is. It's literally just showing you that very, very fine grain of the zebrawood. Modern uses for it are in knife sets, knife handles, bowls, intricate inlays into tables are all done with this type of zebrawood. You can buy it, it's very rare and it's quite expensive, but you can. But anyway, nice tree. I quite enjoy saying hello to these old trees, you know. We go along, come along, let's see what else we can find. Now, we are moving... Before we go into that, there's hyena on quarantine that you need to go and see. We'll catch up with you later.
There are some hyena here, everybody, but we've managed to not see them anymore. Where did they go? Now, of course, we are in the middle of the bush here, as are Stef and Brent. And the hyenas will be circling around here just to kind of get an idea of what we're doing. I'm not sure where they went. Davey, did you see what direction they went? They're probably heading off to the final control to see if they can get some scraps from there. I'm just going to look around here. No, I'm afraid they seem to have disappeared entirely. Anyway, there's something going on, because they've been knocking about here for the last 20 minutes or so. And what they're after, I'm not sure. But there was a wildebeest knocking around as well, and he was kind of alarm calling during the course of the morning, but now he's gone. We'll try and find them again, everyone. While we do that, let's head back to Brent and find out what he's doing. We're
carrying on now. We've left that area. The hyenas are still around, and I know James and the guys at the tents will be keeping the air out if they hear anything that would warrant us rushing back into that area. So we know Karula brought her cubs north across onto Djuma. So she is going to be going back there at some point. So I'm going to go down towards the southern boundary, and I'm just going to start checking that area very carefully. If we find where she possibly has hidden the cubs, we've got a very good chance of finding her as well. She will be returning to that area. So Taxon, who's the guide at Djuma, is going in from the western side, and I'm coming in from the eastern side. And hopefully between the two of us, we'll be able to have some luck with Queen Karula, the dominant female leopard of Djuma. But of course, we're not only in search of the big hairies and scaries. We love all the animals, from the minutest to the largest, and whatever we may find will be just as exciting. Oh, we have a roadblock. There's an old buffalo bull. Hello, mister. This is really not a great place to rest up. There we go. Now, normally there's another one or two around in the bush. Sometimes they are alone. He's already got an early morning oxpecker on him. He doesn't look like he wants to move for us at all. Ruminating, chewing the cud. We're going to find a way around this big boy. While we do that, let's jump back on, or not jump back on, let's go back to the cozy tent with James.
There they are, everyone. They're walking across quarantine clearings here. You can see their tails are cocked up. And their tails are cocked up because they are either sort of being territorial, they've maybe had some conflict with another clan, they look big enough to be females, or they have been fighting with each other over food. They don't look like they've been fighting, they look like they've been after something, they've been scavenging, and so that kind of tension has made them stick their tails up like that. And it's when they walk like this, I find, with their tails cocked up like that they look so unlike dogs. And many people say they look like dogs, but that kind of characteristic tail up and it's flared out, to me always looks completely hyena. Not cat, not dog, not any other kind of animal, but hyena. Something's going on here. As Brent says, there could be a drag mark, maybe they stole from a leopard, maybe they stole from a lion. We should actually be keeping an eye in the trees here for the draped carcass, perhaps, of an antelope. But I don't see anything now. Davey, have you still got the mises, or they're gone? I think they've gone behind that large termite mound there. They're heading off in a westerly direction. And you can see Tax on there, maybe he's following them on game drive. Sindile was around here yesterday, not too far from here at all. Maybe he killed something in the night. Yeah, we can't see them anymore. They're just over the top of the ridge here. We could sort of approach them on foot if we wanted to, but Dave's, of course, attached bodily to the tent. All right, yeah, we'll keep an eye on what's going on out here, but while we do that, let's go back to Steph and see where he is knocking about on foot. We will also, of course, have the rover around at some stage during the morning. See you later.
Welcome back to the bushwalk with myself, Steph. We've been basically finding a drainage line that I know of in this area, and we're slowly making our way down this drainage line. But I stopped at this little grove of Waltheria. This is a Waltheria bush, and we have been very, very lucky with Waltherias in terms of finding creepy crawlies. My favorite type of thing to look for. And so what I'm going to do is just go with you as I comb through these Waltheria plants. You can see me twisting it, and that's because I'd really want to get underneath the leaf to see what is there. Carefully inspect all of the little flower heads for these quite delicate and sometimes very camouflaged spiders that we're finding. For those of you lucky enough to have watched yesterday, we found a crab spider, not on a Waltheria, but it was quite close to one. It doesn't seem like much is over here right now. So we go on to the next bush. That's basically how the bushwalk goes, from one patch of interesting looking bush to another. One thing I did want to try out with you today was a technique for catching rabbits. Now, part of what we do out here is really learning a little bit about how our ancestors used to live off of the land, and it's for some reason I find it quite fascinating, as I'm sure you do as well. There's just this interest in how did people get on in this bush? How long did they live here? How did they manage with all the harshness of this particular environment? One of the best tricks is rabbit hunting. Now this is a stick from a sandpaper raisin. They grow long and straight, as you can see all the way down here. Now they were harvested, and then they were joined together with bits of bark twine, and then at the end of one of these bark twines was placed a forked stick. Now obviously not from a guarri bush, which is what I'm going to be doing here, something a little bit more robust, but this guarri stick is going to let me do what I want to show you. Excuse me. So at the end you place a forked stick. Right? So basically what it would look like is this long stick here, and there would be your forked stick attached with a piece of bark. And the theory is that you then probe holes. In this area the rabbits don't have holes but have scrapes, but in very, very common around these areas are rock hyrax and spring hare, and this definitely works for them. So you put it with a forked stick like this, and you need a bit of body to do this, and unfortunately the only hair I've got are the eyes of my wrists. I'm not going to rip my shirt off for you. What I am going to do is show you the theory behind this. You then twirl it until it catches, and then you pull the rabbit out of the hole using the forked stick. Twist it, catches in the hair, and then you pull the rabbit out of the hole, or you pull the rock hyrax out of the hole using the stick. As you can see now, it didn't really catch in my hair there. I probably could do it on my arm here a little bit. I've made my sticks too big. See there, then you pull the rabbit out of the hole, he comes with following the stick, and then dinner is caught. That is a survival lesson. Let's call that 201 because it's quite a higher grade survival lesson there. Catching rock hyrax or rabbits using a forked stick. And without further ado, I think it would be a good idea to send you out to Brent, who's got an update for you.
Good news, it looks like this cold front might be a pseudo cold front, and it's breaking up. We're getting some blue sky coming through. We're now getting quite close to the southern edge of Djuma, and I'm really hoping that we don't find any tracks in this area, and I'm hoping Tax finds tracks further in Djuma. Now I think she's either got the cubs in this system behind us or the system's here, but I just want to double check this road, make sure that she hasn't done a disappearing act. As we know, Karula, the dominant female leopard here, is very good at disappearing. Now, I just got an update about Sindile. Now, I'm not 100% sure how true it is or how accurate it is, but I'm pretty certain it's from quite a reliable source that he has probably moved over 20 kilometers since yesterday into the Manyaleti. So he's out of Djuma now and actually really long gone. There's a lodge up there called Honey Guide. That's apparently where he is, and I think that's, as the crow flies, straight line over 20 kilometers. So very interesting to see if that's true, because if that is, he's moved a massive distance since we saw him yesterday. So far, no tracks, which is a good thing. Normally, we're always in search of tracks, but I'm hoping not to find tracks in this area this morning. We have a special request from Arcadia, and it's a story I've told, so a lot of our regulars will have heard it, but Arcadia says I have to share it with the new viewers. It was a riot. Now, the story is, my guide was eaten by a lion. I used to work about 70 kilometers that way, well, 10 years ago or so, in a private concession within the Kruger National Park. Now, when we got to that area, it was very, very, very new open up. A lot of the animals were quite skittish and used to run away from the vehicles, so we used to track on foot a lot. And we had an incredible pride that Nat.Geo actually made a documentary on called the Mega Pride. We used to call them the Mountain Pride. At one stage, they got to over 40 lions, and they used to live on the basalt plains leading up to the Lubombo Mountains. And one of the most amazing trackers I've ever worked with in my life, a man by the name of Glass Maramani, and myself found tracks of this pride. And what happens normally when you're on a safari with guests is that I'll have my rifle, and obviously there'll be a tracker's seat up front, and we'll say to the guests, we're just going to leave you here in the shade for a little bit. Glass and I are going to go for a quick walk. As a guide, you're not normally ever gone for longer than 20 minutes. If you think the tracking is going to take longer, you leave the rifle with your tracker and you walk back to the vehicle and you drive around, you talk to him on the radio, find out where to meet him. So we were on a ridge like this, and the road's there. We stopped under a nice tree so the guests didn't get sunburnt, and we walked down into a little river system. And on the other side of the river system is a series of what we call sodic sites, so thick guarri bushes and open patches. And the tracks went down into the river and popped out into these thick guarris, so we're going quite slowly. And then as we sort of popped out of the thickets, and about 70 meters away, there was the Mountain Pride. But this time they had two males with them that had come, that we didn't see very often. They had come from north of our concession. And there's a very simple rule about lions. A noisy lion charging you is a safe lion. A quiet lion is a dangerous lion. And these two male lions got up and came silently. Glass, my tracker, started shouting, "Djuma, shoot them, shoot them!" And I was like, throw rocks at them. And our language took a real big dive. We used some choice words at the lions. But they stopped at about just under 6 feet from us. I mean, we got dust and everything spraying up onto us. And hello, impalas. And we were not feeling quite confident when you've got lions literally right next to you. And you have a system when you work with a tracker, especially in the area there where we used to get charged by lions and stuff a lot, where they're not used to people or vehicles, is that when you're on foot and you've got your rifle up now, your tracker slips his finger through your belt and he leads you out so you can keep focused on whatever the danger is. And well, we glassed through some rocks at the lions. I was shouting at the lions and using some bad language in their general direction. But it took us about 25 minutes to get out of there, because every time we took a step back, they'd come forward again, charging, growling. Now the guests, although they couldn't see us, were probably no more than 100 meters. So all they could hear was all this shouting, and now once the lions had stopped their charge, all this growling. And like we have our earpieces here, we had earpieces there, and we had an American lady on the vehicle, and she could just hear lions growling and us shouting, but grabbed the radio, but couldn't figure out that there was an earpiece into it, so she couldn't hear what was saying back. So she grabbed the game drive radio and shouted, my God, my guide's been eaten by a lion, my guide's been eaten by a lion. Obviously that caused major panic through the rest of the guiding team. Everyone starts rushing up to the north, and eventually Glass and I managed to get out of that situation, and we were completely fine till we got back to the car. And I remember I opened the rifle, took the round out, made the firearm safe, closed it, put it in its case, and then my hands just went, and I couldn't even speak. It was just shaking, and my tracker Glass couldn't even get into the car. He was just missing the step the whole time. And and then there was also a British couple on the vehicle, and she piped out from that, Brent, my dear, I really didn't enjoy the language you were using from there. And I didn't, at that moment, I didn't realize she was joking. She was joking. But here we are. That was my guide was eaten by a lion. Obviously, everyone rushed up there, complete panic, and then eventually managed to get on the radio. So, guys, fine. But it was we had a very nice lion sighting after that. We drove the car through and sat with them for a good hour afterwards. But there we go, Arcadia. My guide was eaten by a lion story for you. That's possibly one of the worst charges I've faced in South Africa from a lion on foot. But I think let's move on from lions and go to Steph, who's got something that's not nearly as scary as a lion.
Welcome back to the Bushwalk, and for those of you who have just joined us, I'm Steph, and we're on foot walking in the middle of the Kruger National Park here with everyone else. And one of my favorite pastimes is lifting up pieces of bark and chunks of wood to see what creepy crawlies are underneath it. And underneath here is a special surprise just for you. It's the first time in an age that I've seen one of these. They're not particularly rare, but they are here. That is a woodlouse.
Oh, sorry about that. There seems to have been a little gremlin crawling around in the bushwalk. So you're back with us. So we're checking the southern boundary. I'm leaving Tax to check around Treehouse Dam. And he's got Fanuti, his tracker. So if he does find any fresh tracks, he's able to put Fanuti on those. Now there is a possibility those lions have moved further to the east. There is the Inkahuma who's got cubs here at the moment. And we're going to go check along our eastern boundary and see if we can find any tracks or any sign of anything there. No tracks here. That's good. We want tracks coming this way, not going that way. Now this is one of our best roads for finding tracks. It's really nice and sandy. It sits up on the ridge here, so we don't have to strain the eyes too much to see the leopard and lion prints. Okay. So there were tracks of a male lion in this area on yesterday's sunrise safari. Now, these Birmingham boys have been moving up and down and all around, so there's always a possibility they might make an appearance. So it looks like Steph's back, and he's got that very, very fearsome woodlouse to show you.
Alright, so we've managed to fix our little glitch that we had over there. We figured out we leant a little bit too far over with the backpack, and that's why you left us so suddenly. But let's go down over here to go and show you exactly what we were looking at. As you left us, we had found a woodlouse. Now woodlouse have babies, and this is a mommy, and have a look at all her babies. Isn't that cool? She's a detritivore, so that means that she eats detritus. Fungus and algae are her main foods. Oh, you've left some of your kids behind. Where are you going? And those are baby woodlouse. Isn't that awesome? Ah, there they're going, following mom. That's very cute. I've never ever in 20 years seen a baby woodlouse, and there we go, first time ever. We've also got something else interesting here, and that is 3 casks from a mud dauber wasp. Now what that means is that this little wasp has collected mud from somewhere and come and built these funny pottery jars. They're called potter's wasps or mud dauber wasps. Inside each of these pottery jars is a caterpillar that she would, after having built this chamber, she would fly around, find a caterpillar, sting the caterpillar but not kill it, just paralyze it, push it into this cavity and then lay an egg on it. What happens then is actually quite bizarre and quite macabre. But the wasp larvae is carnivorous and hatches on the caterpillar and then starts to eat it, but eats all the non-essential tissues first and then all the appendages, and eventually when that wasp's larvae is ready to pupate, it will eat the rest of that caterpillar alive. And then it pupates and comes out of that little pottery jar as a wasp to begin the whole cycle over again. Isn't that amazing? Scary, macabre. Imagine if that was on a scale that we're at. I think we'd be stuffed into one of these jars with a wasp caterpillar, well, a wasp larvae eating us, but don't like it. I can't see anything in there. It looks like they had a clay seal. You can see this one over here. It's got a little cap that's been opened. I actually think that these are old jars in which the wasp has actually left. Now towards the end of the season that does happen. Right. So let me see if I can open up one of these jars and we can see what's inside of it. You can see the mud. That was the chamber. It is empty. You can see right inside there. No more wasp, no more caterpillar. That was all eaten. Wasp has flown away. And that's basically that for that little mud dauber or pottery wasp. Many different kinds of pottery wasps, many different kinds of shapes of pottery jars, many different types of and sizes of caterpillar that they feed on. And obviously, as much as it sounds a little bit macabre, you can't have all the moth and butterfly larvae. You can't have all the caterpillars eating all the leaves. And Mother Nature has put in a nice check and a balance there. She introduced this wasp. These wasps they're furiously busy building these little pottery jars and collecting caterpillars, and that way Mother Nature keeps a balance, an equilibrium out here. Not too many caterpillars eating all the leaves, not too many wasps eating all the caterpillars, basically. Always this relationship with one another. James likes to refer to it as being constantly in flux and never in equilibrium. For me, I like to think that everything is in a state of flux. I'm in accord with James on that, actually. I quite agree with his statement there. It's either too much or too little. There's no such thing as too much or too little. It is just part of the range of things just staying in equilibrium here. But back onto this wood lice, Jeff has asked me, good morning, Jeff. You've asked me all the way from Arizona, as far as I can remember in my ear. Isn't the wood lice a type of cockroach? And you're 100% right. The wood lice, along with the termite, is a type of cockroach, absolutely, and they feed on the detritus, they feed on the rotting vegetation that happens after elephants have been through an area and given Mother Nature a little bit of time to start to decompose all of this area here. But if you'd like to see her again, I think it wouldn't do any harm to turn this around. Actually quite fantastic creatures. Them and horseshoe crabs are some of the oldest creatures on terrestrial creatures, and I mean creatures that have climbed out of the sea, that we find. There she is there, and she houses her babies underneath her. Can you see her there? I'll point her out with my finger. There we go. Relying on camouflage, all her mouth parts are underneath that camouflage shell so that she can eat without having to move any external part and become prey to something. She's quite soft-bodied. She doesn't have a hard exoskeleton. Let's see if we can turn her around so you can see where her babies lie. There her babies are underneath there. That's how she keeps them safe. And the two little critters have gone into search of some hiding over there. No harm done. She'll go and collect them very, very soon. Fascinating how camouflaged she is, eh? Nice. Let's turn this around so that she's not exposed at all. And put it right back where we found it. Right. While I carry on looking for more interesting critters to show you, I'm sure James has got something exciting to tell you in that tent of his.
Hey everyone, there's kind of a bit of a behind the scenes look at what's going on here at the moment. The rover is up, so if you have a look now, that was brilliant, Kirsten, very fast, well done. There's the rover feed. It's looking at the water hole. Unfortunately, the rover has gone rogue. Now what that means is that every time we tell it to move anywhere, it goes forward, and that's what it does. It doesn't stop going forward. And we had a rather disturbing period. We had that picture that you can see in front of you now, and we drove the rover forward from the tent here, and it kept going, and we had to yell down the radio to Connor to rush down there and pick it up before it drove itself into the water. Anyway, that's the story of the rover, and with any luck we'll have it up and running fairly soon. Next, of course, is this rather splendid new microscope, and what I wanted to do was show you a tortoise, not a tortoise, a spider, which has now been moved. Geraldine keeps tidying up after me, you see. I can't find anything in here anymore. Where's my spider? Banded, but no, it's no. I'm going to give her a thorough talking to just now. Anyway, let's not do the spider. We'll have a look at a weevil instead. The spider's kind of crucial to me stories. All right, here's the weevil. And we'll just give Davey a chance to look at the weevil. The weevil, of course, is now starting to rot, and it's not very tasteful, but it will eventually go hard, and then it won't rot anymore. But this spanky new microscope, we're going to have a look at the weevil's mouthparts. And a weevil's mouthparts, of course, are utterly terrifying because they look like the mouthparts of an alien. Indeed, the entire weevil resembles an alien in many respects. Let me just focus in on this chap before you go to him. Now, let's drop this down. And there you go. So that, everybody, is the weevil's mouthparts. I'm just not sure about the light on him. Hang on one sec. Come back to me, Kirst. I'll just quickly get a light. Stand by. Davey, don't go anywhere. I'm coming back now, Dave. I'm on my way. I'm on my way back, Dave. Fear not. Here I come. Here I come. Well done, Dave. You held the fort admirably there. Let's see if this doesn't make a difference. Yes, I think we have a problem with the exposure on this thing. Yeah. Not ideal, is it, Darby? Okay, we're going to do a little bit of work on this. We're going to change the background. Oh, well, there we go. There we go. Oh, very nice hairs there. That's the abdomen, everyone. Yeah, that's the abdomen, and those are the hairs of the abdomen, of course. And I just find the detail absolutely incredible. Most of those hairs will be not, of course, for thermoregulation like they are for us. Look at the abdomen there. But they'll be they'll be sort of sensory organs. They'll feel different movement in the water, in the air, and they sort of, I guess, also tie together the different parts of the body. Now, you cannot see those hairs unless you have this thing under a microscope. It seems to be tying the segments of the abdomen together as well. Let's turn him over. Have a look at the top of him. There we go. And that's what the top of him looks like. And I promise you now, you cannot, and I will show you just shortly when I've taken it out of here, you cannot see those hairs if you don't have him under the microscope. Isn't that awesome? Alright, I think I've figured out what the problem is here. The problem is that as soon as he's not fully in the background, the auto exposure on this microscope exposes for the underneath side, and that's what the problem is. Anyway, we'll sort that out. But what I did want you to quickly look at is that's his antenna. Those are his two antennae, and look where they come out of. They're sort of these elaborate, I don't know what you'd call them, sort of bases from which they emerge. I think that's absolutely incredible. Anyway, that's the weevil in the microscope. Very nice. So that's what we're doing in the tent today. We're just ironing out one or two issues before we go to TV, of course. We're very excited. Brenty is out there still scouring the place. He doesn't look very warm. I can see him drinking his coffee, which looks very delicious. I hope it's warm. It's in a thermostatic flask. So let's head back to Brent and get an update from him.
You can see it's very cold, and I've got my flask with me to try warm my innards. But, oh, there we go. Here's a waterbuck bull. He's a big boy. That is a very big waterbuck. Massive horns on him. That's a prime specimen. Now, a lot of you will know, some of you won't, that is the emblem of the Sabi Sands. Morning, morning. Now, we're not going to try to go any closer to him today with this really windy weather. He'll probably be a bit nervous. I think that's, Brian, that's probably one of the biggest waterbuck we've seen here in terms of horns. That is massive. Big boy. You can see very alert in this windy weather. Now we are looking at a beautiful big waterbuck, which is of course an antelope. Justin says he's researched there's 91 species of antelope worldwide. And Justin would like to know how many in South Africa. Justin, you're going to have to make me put my grey matter into gear early on this morning. But we've got one species for sure. It's called a waterbuck because we can see it right in front of us. But let's go through the families as we move towards the Buffelshoek waterhole. Let us start with the Cobus family, since they are the first antelope we've seen. In South Africa, we have the common waterbuck. And what's closely related to them? Reedbuck. So we've got common waterbuck, common reedbuck, mountain reedbuck, foul rebok, oribi. I got those 5 out of the way, and those are ones we're not going to see around here normally, apart from the waterbuck. We might very occasionally see a reedbuck. So oribi, I'm just trying to go through the high veld species before we move down to the low veld. Black wildebeest is another one. Blesbok, Bontebok. Brian, can you think of any high veld species? Sorry? Sesame, that's a low veld species, but yes, sesame. I think I've got the high veld species. Springbok. And now we are on 10. And Springbok, just try to think of any other desert species. Cape Graysbok. It's one that only is endemic to the Fynbos area around the Western Cape. And then we have a Sharps Graysbok, which occurs around further to the east of us here. So we're at 12 now. And okay, so we're on 12. And I think we've covered the ones that don't occur in the low veld. So let's hit the low veld. Let's hit the rare species first. Sable roan puts us to 14. We've already mentioned sesame. So let's go spiral horned antelope. When we're on 14, Inyala, bushbuck, 16, kudu, eland, 18. Did I say bushbuck? I did say bushbuck. We're on 18. Okay, and of course impala, 19, duiker, 20, blue wildebeest, 21. And let's think. You think of anything else from down here? I've got a few that don't occur in this part of the low veld, but occur in the coastal part. So we'll do Sunni and red duiker, which puts us on 23 so far. Have we covered them all, Brian? I think we have. Well done, Brian. 24. I'm trying to think what else we can say. Well, definitely 24 species in South Africa. There might be one I've forgotten, but I think I have got the obscure ones like the Sunni and the foul rebok. Red hartebeest. That's and Liechtenstein's hartebeest. Oh dear. So we're on 26. Now that's not bad for 91 in the whole world, and we've got 26 species just in South Africa. Now, of course, if we included Southern Africa, we could probably add a few more that occur. 27 Gemsbok, desert species, or an oryx. I think we've got them all now. I'll keep churning to see if I've forgotten something. I hope I haven't forgotten something that lives here. That would be quite embarrassing. Okay, so we're coming up to look at the Buffelshoek waterhole. Of course, there is ongoing construction on it at the moment, bolstering it while it's very dry. Now, in a lot of cases, the female antelope species don't have horns. And our beard said, please remind me, do lady waterbuck have horns? They do not. The only female that we get in the Sabi Sands that has horns is the wildebeest. We're not going to spend too much time around all the work that's going on here. We're going to scoot off down to the bottom, but we are always checking for the lioness who's been here, and we think she's got cubs in one of these little river systems that come out of the Buffelshoek waterhole. So I think the only female that has horns is the wildebeest here. Of course, there's always a chance we might see sable or eland, and both of those females have horns as well. And I think other than that, sesame female have horns, but very unlikely to see them here. But I'm going to ponder that for a little bit longer. While I ponder, James is very nice and warm, and he's got something else to show you under the microscope.
Now, everyone, I don't know if you've seen this before. We have shown him a few times, but I've just been sort of perfecting the view of this fellow underneath the microscope. And I know to many of you, the thought of having a basically tarantula in your hand would be utterly terrifying. But this is the South African version of a tarantula. It's a baboon spider, and we didn't really know how it died until Steph said to me, what about it being stung by a wasp? Now, these baboon spiders' major predators are spider hunting wasps, and what they will do is sting the spider. It paralyzes it completely, doesn't kill it, and with the sting they lay an egg inside the abdomen here of this very beautiful spider, and then the paralyzed spider is buried in the wasp's hole, and its larvae then hatch inside the abdomen, and they eat it from the inside while it's still alive. That's not a good way to go. But what we have done is sort out a few things with this microscope. So let's see if we can see his eyes, her eyes. Right, and there you have the eyes staring at you. Let me just focus on them. Those are them there. Isn't that cool? So those are the eyes. The white things are the eyes reflecting the light from the microscope. And the focus is very, very sensitive. So there we go. We had it there. There. Those are the eyes. Unbelievable. Now let's go back out again. What I'm going to do is move the spider. Those are things called chelicerae, in which the venom glands for the spider are. So you can see there are two things, two kind of protuberances from the front of the spider's head. You can still see the eyes in the right-hand side of the corner of your screen. And those hairs are very sensitive. Like I said with the weevil, they are not used for any kind of thermoregulation or for maintaining heat. They are nerve sensors. So it helps the spider to decide where to put her fangs. Now I'm going to flip her over. She's coming back, everyone. And I'm going to show you the fangs. There, everyone, are the fangs of the spider. So if you're an arachnophobe and you're terrified of being bitten by a spider, well, I don't blame you. It's those very sharp things on the bottom of your screen that would stick into you and envenomate your hand, and then you'll drop dead in seconds, of course. I'm talking absolute nonsense. This is a completely harmless spider to human beings, but if you happen to be something that it likes to eat, a grasshopper, for example, well, them fangs is going to make a very unpleasant day for you. Anyway, that is the baboon spider. Let's have a quick look at his abdomen. I just want to have one more look at his abdomen from close up. There we go. Oh, wow. Look at the markings. Look at those magnificent, beautiful copper gold markings. I bet if I showed you that, and you were an arachnophobic person and you didn't know that this was a spider, you'd say, what an astonishingly beautiful arrangement of black, gold and yellow colours. And then when I zoomed out a bit and put it on my hand, you would probably recoil in horror. Steph is not having a horrible time at all. He is walking about. He seems to be quite well. I'm sure he's warming on his walk. Let's go and find out what he's found.
Welcome back to the bushwalk part of this sunrise safari, and you with Steph if you haven't met me just yet. And we've been on foot for the last, I don't know, probably about an hour or so now, scouring this drainage basin system that we're walking around right now. And you'll notice it's quite thick bush, and that's because there's a bit more water where we are now than there would be at any other time of the year, because we're getting close to this drainage lines, you know, this depression where water collects. Now, one of the reasons why I come out to places like this is purely because there's just more bushes and there's more life and there's more food and there's just more of everything. But it also makes it a bit more dangerous and a bit more, you've got to take your time to walk through here really. Now, generally when you're walking in thick bush like this, you aim for patches in the bush like you can see here, where you've got open patch and you've got some thick bush on either side. But it's always a good idea, when you're walking through the bush, to walk and stop and listen. So we're going to do exactly that. You're going to come with me and you're going to see how we walk through the bush. You walk quite slowly, keeping your eyes and ears open. As you start to get through these patches of bush, you can stop. And now what I'm looking for is on this side here, there's a thicket of trees there. Obviously makes a good place for animals to lie up and escape the heat of the day or look for food. And on this side, we've got a sheltered alcove. Once again, makes a good sleeping place. You can imagine a lion or a buffalo sleeping over there. There's obviously nothing there this time, and most of the times there's nothing there really. But that's how we walk through the bush. Stop, walk. In my mind, I'm busy looking and seeing where is it that we can possibly get ourselves into trouble. And just by respecting that simple rule, just by not really wanting to, not really wanting to change the way that the bush is done, we get to go through here quite safely. I say quite safely. You need a lot of skill to get through here and do things right, but we've been doing this for quite some time now and it's not too bad. Now Justin has just asked me, how do you make a campfire out here? Justin, the easiest would be is to use obviously one of our preferred matches or lighter with some grass and then some kindling. We've actually got all the makings of a fire here right where we are now. Let's see if I can get one going for us. Alright, so what you want is you want some grass, preferably as dry as possible. Now the key to a good fire is literally in the preparation. Just making a clean patch there. I don't want any errant coals busy giving us a problem. So what you want is you want to lay out your grass first. That is going to be the driest pieces that you use. The next is to collect kindling. Now kindling is sticks of a variety of different sizes. Alright? You don't want sticks that are too thick, you don't want sticks that are too thin. You want sticks that are just right. Right, so we've got a few sticks. Alright, let's take this over to my grass pile. And now you need a fire starter. Now fire starters can be anything from bits and pieces of dried cotton wool to birds' nests of very good fire starters. You get wild cotton out here, it's also another very good fire starter. Elephant dung is quite a good fire starter. This is an old piece of elephant dung. And as you can see, really just dried grass. And what we're looking for is a piece that is mostly grass and not just termite sand. This one's going to do quite well. And maybe this one. No. Alrighty, let's take this back to our campsite prep. And now you need something to make flame with. Now, obviously, the Bushmen have been using twirly sticks. They basically take a stick like this and they will drill a hole in it with their hands, coming down, drilling, and drilling more, and it makes friction, a friction fire. But believe me, my hands are way too soft to make friction fires. You need palms like tar roads to get friction fires going. And I've never managed to correctly do it. What I quite like to do is use a magnesium fire stick. So I use a magnesium fire stick. To generate a spark. Obviously, because I want to show you today, it's not going to work. Hang on. There we go. Now, fire is all about patience, everybody. It's going to be a bit of patience with me today. Getting this going. Alright. When all else fails. Okay, so that's failed. I have another trick that I have up my sleeve. My little box of tricks here. And for the moment, I'm going to bypass the easy way by using some matches and go to something a little bit more, how do I say, alternative. These little cotton wool balls come packed very waterproof. And very compact. And make for the most fantastic fire starters that you can imagine. You just got to try and loosen them a bit. Get yourself out some fluff. And then strike a spark. Use your grass. And once your grass is burning, use your sticks. You want as many sticks to catch a light as you possibly can with the grass. Because if your sticks don't catch and your grass finishes, your fire dies and you've got to start all over again. Basically, voila, we have fire. And that is fire 101. Now we're going to have to put out this whole mess and pick up everything. And while we're doing that, you're going to go through to Brent for an update. See you later.
I think that's possibly the most interesting fire making technique I've heard in a while. But it worked and there is a fire. Now we've continued to check through all of the sort of eastern central parts of Djuma. We've had no luck. I'm going to now head basically west towards the northwestern corner. I'm hoping we do find some lion tracks because there's no lion tracks coming this way. So I'm hoping that those two lioness have possibly moved back towards the west and hopefully not north. But fortunately you can see there's some beautiful light coming through. The clouds are breaking up and hopefully we're in for a cracker of a day.